Hey everyone, Petra Fisher here from Petra Fisher Movement. I wanted to talk to you today about hip over heels alignment. This is one of the keys to making a really successful transition out of conventional shoes and into barefoot shoes. And I mean a transition that is going to nurture your feet and also the rest of your body. Let me tell you a little bit about this. So when we wear shoes with heels, they push our bodies forward all the time. So many of us, as a result of wearing conventional shoes with some amount of heel in our whole lives, tend to stand with our pelvis thrusted out in front of us like this. Super common. This was my standing position before I discovered the world of movement. What this does, though, is it puts a lot of load on the forefoot, which can contribute to issues like plantar fasciitis and hammer toes and gripping with the toes. And you can also put a lot of inappropriate loading on your pelvic floor and your low back. So ideally, we'd be standing with our weight more over our heels. So our body weight is descending straight down into our heel bones, and our feet are actively pressing into the ground. So this is a passive, my weight is making my toes into the ground. This is an active, my feet are actively pressing into the ground movement. So let me show you what that looks like from the side with my yoga strap. So in order to do this on yourself, what you're gonna have to do is find your hip joint and get a yoga strap or a string with maybe a set of keys on it as a plumb line. You're gonna put your strap on your hip joint, and then you're gonna drop your strap down. You're gonna see, hey, does my strap fall directly over my ankle bone? Or does my strap fall in front of my ankle bone somewhere in kind of the forefoot area? And if it's the forefoot area, you want to move that back so that your hips are directly aligned over your heels. Let's break that down a little bit. So the first thing to do is you need to be able to find your hip joints in order to be able to do this assessment. Most people think their hips are up here because when you say hands on the hips, that's where your hands go. This is not your hip. This is your pelvis. Your hips are down here somewhere. So the place to find your hips is kind of your side butt. And if you put your hands flat onto your side butt and start sliding your hips side to side like this, you're going to end up finding the point that feels like a hinge. So the point that pokes out the most on one side hinges in the most on the other side. And you can do this as many times as you like until you feel like you found it. It might take some time to feel like you found it, and that's okay. It is hard to reconnect with our bodies when we're not used to doing it. So you're just going to keep trying until you get your best guess as to where that kind of folding in point is or pokey out point is. If you want, you can knock around with a closed fist on your hip until you find that solid, bony bit on the outside. That's another way to find your actual hip. So once you've found your actual hip, you're going to really remember that. You're going to spend some time imprinting that on your brain, and then you're going to take your yoga strap and you're going to stick it onto where your hip joint is, and you're going to just drop it straight from the side. Now, what is easy to do here is you put your hip marker onto your hip, and then you turn around to look at where it's hanging, and that turnaround is going to mess up your measurement. So you want to make sure that you're looking straight forward, that your strap or plumb line is on your hip, and maybe get someone to take a video or a photo, or keep your whole body still and just turn your head and look in a mirror and see if you can figure out what your hip over heel alignment actually is. So that's how you're going to measure it. And that's worth doing regularly as a check-in. This is a very sneaky habit. Lots of us have it. Lots of us don't realize we have it. So doing that measurement to give yourself an objective measure is really useful. Here's another way to find it. So this one's a little bit more sensation-based. All you're going to do is maybe near a wall for balance, you're going to stand and you're going to maybe close your eyes and check in on where you feel your weight in your feet. Is it in the heel? Is it in the midfoot? Is it in the forefoot? If you want, keep your eyes closed and lean your whole pelvis and body forward until you can really feel it go into your feet. Maybe you can even feel your toes gripping here. Mine start to grip right away. Then you're going to take your weight back again. Back through the midpoint, through the heels, to the point where maybe you even feel like you're going to fall over a little bit backwards. And that's okay, you're not gonna fall over, your body is not gonna let you do that, but be cautious. I definitely am getting a little tippy back here. So you don't wanna be that far back, because that's a little too far back, but you do wanna find the place where it feels like your weight has gone into your heel bones. Your heel bones are big, thick, heavy bones for a reason, and part of that reason is walking, but part of that reason is just because that's where your weight's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be in your forefeet. And you can take your weight back into your forefeet. Feel that gripping. That is not a great pattern to be in. And if that's your pattern, you want to get out of it and really work on getting your weight back into your heels so that you can let go of that gripping pattern with your feet and let your toes start to do what they're actually supposed to do, which is not gripping the ground all the time. All right, so hips over heel alignment. That's the theory. What I find with most people is that when you actually try doing it, a few things happen. Number one is you feel way too tippy when you start going backwards. Number two is as you start going backwards, you feel tippy, and so you add a lot of tension to the fronts of your legs. You start gripping your quads. You're really trying to not fall over. Neither of those are great outcomes. So there are some exercises you can do which will help you start to move your weight back towards your heels in a relaxed and unforced manner. So in the next video in this series, I'm going to show you 3 of my favorite exercises for building up the leg strength and the leg mobility that you need in order to stand in this particular way. In the meantime, what you could try is if you notice that your hips are very far forward and you want to start moving them back but you can't get all the way, that is totally fine. Just go as far as you think you can today, work there, get your body to adapt there, and then keep checking in, keep moving it further back until you get very comfortable having your hips over your heels, having this alignment. It's going to take a ton of load off your feet. It's going to definitely help with things like plantar fasciitis and metatarsal pain. It's a great alignment switch to make, and I'm going to show you my favorite exercises in the next video. Okay?